Welcome to today's Explainer. We've got a massive development to unpack today regarding India's education sector, specifically a sudden and highly public leadership transition. The big question we're tackling, whether this is a genuine, monumental turning point or just a reshuffling of the deck to maintain the status quo. We're going to break down exactly what this shakeup means for students, for parents, and for the whole systemic machinery. We're cutting through the political headlines to figure out what is really going on here. Okay, let's dive into this. The million-dollar question right now is simply this. Was Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation actually worth it? It's a heavy question, for sure, but it's literally the focal point of this entire governmental transition. Look, a resignation at this high level of government sends immediate shockwaves across the whole educational landscape. But to figure out if it was actually worth it, we need to look at what success or failure looks like on the ground for the millions of people who deal with this ministry every single day. Right now, we are standing at a very precarious crossroads. On one hand, we're looking at the ideal potential of this transition. Transparent examinations and sweeping reforms, that's the dream, right? But then, on the exact opposite side, we've got this cynical, ongoing reality, paper leaks and endless administrative delays. The whole education system is essentially teetering right between these two extremes. And here's the thing, just having a minister resign doesn't automatically teleport us from the negative to the positive. It just opens the door. So whether this leadership change actually matters, well, that depends entirely on which of these two paths ends up defining the future. Let's explore that first possibility, a positive turning point. But honestly, we have to clearly define what a turning point actually means in a situation like this. Because it's incredibly easy for officials to just say things are going to get better. But for an education system as massive and complex as India's, a successful transition requires highly specific, structural achievements. If this resignation is going to go down in history as a true catalyst for good, it absolutely cannot just be a symbolic gesture. No way. It has to act as a springboard for tangible, positive evolution, the kind of change students can actually feel in their day-to-day lives. So what does that positive evolution actually look like in practice? Well, it boils down to 4 very specific indicators. First up, better policies. The fundamental rules of the game need a serious upgrade. Second, transparent examinations. The testing process has to be crystal clear and fiercely protected. Third, faster reforms, because the pace of change really needs to match the urgency of the students' needs. And finally, restoring students' trust. Notice how logically these all build on each other? It's like a giant puzzle. You simply cannot restore trust without transparent exams, and you definitely can't get transparent exams without better policies and faster reforms. If the new leadership can hit these 4 goals, then yeah, this resignation truly becomes a positive turning point. But, and this is a massive but, there is a serious condition attached to all this optimism. We have to consider the very real danger of the status quo. I actually want to slow down here for a second because just slapping a new name on an office door doesn't magically fix a flawed system. It is absolutely crucial to understand the gravity of merely changing the face of leadership while leaving the machinery behind it completely untouched. The real danger here is that it gives us this comforting illusion of change while the actual administrative rot just keeps right on spreading. To really grasp that danger, we need to look closely at the persistent, systemic issues that are threatening to carry right over. Paper leaks, administrative delays, and a glaring lack of accountability. These aren't just minor administrative hiccups, you know? They represent an exhausting, heavy burden placed directly on the shoulders of students and their parents. Imagine a student spending years, literally years, preparing only to face a leaked paper or an endless administrative delay with absolutely no one taking responsibility. A new minister doesn't magically make that lost time reappear. If these issues remain the norm, the system just remains fundamentally broken. It all really boils down to this incredibly sobering realization. The resignation alone will have no real meaning. Just think about that for a second. It strips away all the political theater and reminds us that failing to enact structural changes alongside the political ones, it renders the whole transition completely pointless. The previous minister stepping down is literally only half the equation. The other, far more important half, is what actually happens next. Which brings us to our new reality and the road ahead. Right now, all eyes are squarely on Prahlad Joshi. The newly appointed education minister is walking right into the absolute center of this storm. The expectations of millions of anxious students, parents, and dedicated teachers are now resting directly on his shoulders. He isn't just taking on a portfolio, he is inheriting the intense scrutiny of a public that is desperately waiting to see which path his leadership will ultimately take the education system down. And the public's requirement for his tenure is crystal clear. Concrete action, not just promises. We are way past the point where reassuring speeches or glossy press releases are going to satisfy anyone. The mandate given to Joshi by the people affected by these systems is entirely action-oriented. The patience of the students has moved far beyond mere rhetoric. They want to see the mechanics of the system physically change, and honestly, they want to see it happen right now. Ultimately, this means the new leadership is going to be judged by a strict new standard. Success is no longer measured by speeches, it will be strictly measured by results. Speeches might outline a grand, beautiful vision, sure, but leak-proof exams, on-time schedules, and transparent governance, those are the only metrics that matter anymore. It's a highly focused, highly pragmatic way to look at educational governance. You either deliver the results or you don't. It's as simple as that. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought. Was this resignation the right decision, or should concrete reforms have been locked in before a leadership change? Does changing the leader actually cause the reform, or do you need to fix the mechanism before handing it over to someone new? It really makes you ponder the mechanics of systemic versus symbolic change, doesn't it? Think about that as you process everything we've covered today. Thank you so much for joining me for this focused deep dive. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.